In ancient Egypt, the ruling pharaohs claimed to be living gods. Their authority over the enslaved children of Israel was absolute. But one night, the ruling pharaoh had a dream. He saw a massive fire fall from the sky, burning down every Egyptian home while leaving the Israelites completely unharmed. Horrified by what the dream might mean, Pharaoh summoned his priests. They interpreted the fire as a prophecy. A boy would soon be born to the Israelites who would bring about the destruction of Egypt. In response, Pharaoh issued a ruthless decree. He ordered his soldiers to execute every male infant born to the Israelite slaves. It was under this brutal decree that Musa was born. Fearing for his life, his mother followed a divine command. She placed her newborn into a basket and set it adrift on the Nile River. The basket floated downstream until it entered a small stream on the palace grounds, where it was discovered by Pharaoh's own wife. Unlike her husband, she was a merciful believer, and she immediately fell in love with the child. Pharaoh couldn't refuse his wife's joy, so they adopted the boy. The infant, prophesied to dismantle the Egyptian empire, was now living safely in the royal palace, fed and protected by the very tyrant who ordered his death. Musa grew up as a prince with strength and wisdom, but his life in the palace ended abruptly. Walking through the city, he saw an Egyptian soldier viciously beating an Israelite. Musa stepped in to stop the abuse. He threw a single, powerful blow at the soldier. The impact was unexpectedly fatal. The man collapsed and died in the street. A cold sweat broke over Musa. He immediately recognized his mistake and dropped to his knees, praying for God's forgiveness. Knowing the penalty for killing an Egyptian was certain death, he had no time to gather supplies. He fled the city that very day. With nothing but the clothes on his back, Musa walked for 8 grueling days and nights across burning sand. He finally reached the region of Madyan. There, he helped 2 young women water their sheep, eventually marrying into their family. For the next 10 years, the former prince of Egypt lived as a humble shepherd. This decade of labor was Musa's crucible. The man who once commanded servants now spent 10 years tending a stranger's sheep to pay for his marriage. This daily service in the desert silence wore away his royal impulsiveness, replacing it with the profound patience he would need to lead a stubborn nation through the wilderness. Overcome by homesickness, Musa gathered his family to return to Egypt. Near Mount Sinai, he spotted a fire high on the mountain. As he approached, God spoke to him, revealing that Musa was chosen for a special mission, granting him undeniable miracles, like a staff that turned into a snake, to confront Pharaoh. Musa re-entered Egypt and stood before the Pharaoh alongside his brother, Harun. They delivered God's message and demanded the release of the enslaved Israelites. Pharaoh met them with arrogant mockery. He laughed at the idea of a supreme God and dismissed Musa as a crazy fugitive. To prove his superiority, Pharaoh summoned the greatest magicians in his kingdom for a public showdown. Seeking huge rewards, the sorcerers threw down their sticks and ropes. Through clever sleight of hand, the ground appeared to flood with a writhing sea of serpents. Musa threw his wooden staff to the floor. Instantly, it transformed into a massive physical serpent that quickly swallowed up every single one of the magician's fake snakes. The sorcerers recognized the difference between parlor tricks and actual power. Knowing this was no illusion, they dropped to their knees and submitted to Musa's God. Pharaoh's psychological grip on his own court had just been shattered. Pharaoh's repeated broken promises triggered a rapid cycle of ecological collapse across Egypt. Every time he reneged on a vow to free the Israelites, a new disaster struck the kingdom's infrastructure. This timeline tracks the speed of that decline. First, a severe drought withered the fertile Nile valleys. When Pharaoh refused to yield, massive floods drowned the villages. Then huge swarms of locusts arrived, swallowing whatever crops were left in their path. The timeline then tracks the biological plagues, diseases spread by lice, followed by swarms of frogs. Finally, God sent a targeted sign. The water of the Nile turned completely to blood. But as the diagram highlights, this only affected the Egyptians. If an Israelite drank from the river, the water was normal. If an Egyptian filled his cup, it was blood. Unable to withstand the devastation, the Egyptians finally let the slaves go. Musa led his people on a mass migration out of the city. But Pharaoh quickly changed his mind and assembled his army to chase them down. By morning, the Israelites were trapped. They stood directly in front of the impassable Red Sea, with the Egyptian army closing in fast from behind. Musa remained calm and struck the water with his staff. Fierce winds tore through the sea, parting the waters and creating a dry path for the Israelites to cross. Pharaoh arrogantly followed them into the seabed. Once Musa's people were safe on the other side, the massive walls of water came crashing down, entirely consuming the Egyptian forces. As he was pulled under the waves, Pharaoh desperately shouted out his belief in God, but his submission was rejected. Faith declared only in the absolute terror of impending death holds no spiritual weight. The Israelites were free, wandering into the Sinai desert. But while their physical chains were gone, their habits of worship remained deeply tied to the visual, tangible gods of their former masters. God ordered Musa to climb the mountain and fast for 40 days to receive the divine law. During his absence, the people grew restless. They told Musa's brother they needed a visible guide. Using melted jewelry, a man named Samiri forged a golden calf, a physical idol that the people immediately began to worship, just as they had seen in Egypt. Musa returned to find his people dancing around a statue. Furious, he permanently exiled Samiri. He then took 70 elders back up the mountain to seek repentance. But the elders were stubborn. They demanded to literally see God with their own eyes before they would believe. Instantly, a devastating earthquake and thunderbolt struck the mountain, killing the men until Musa pleaded for their resurrection. These repeated failures revealed a difficult truth. Physical liberation was instantaneous, but purging the ingrained habits of Egyptian idol worship was not. Even after witnessing the Red Sea part, the people still craved the familiar, visible gods of their captors, proving that a mind conditioned by slavery is far harder to free than a body in chains. Because of their constant rebellion and refusal to trust an unseen God, this generation of Israelites was denied entry into the Promised Land. They were condemned to wander the desert for 40 years until a new generation could take their place. Eventually, the time came for Musa himself to pass away. When the angel of death arrived in human form, the fierce prophet was not yet ready to leave his people. He struck the angel, physically rejecting the transition to the next life. God sent the angel back with an offer. Musa could place his hand on an ox, and for every hair his hand covered, he would be granted 1 more year of life. Musa asked what would happen after those years passed. The angel replied that death was still inevitable. Hearing this, Musa chose to accept his fate immediately, asking only to die within sight of the Holy Land. Musa's story ends with the same quiet defiance that defined his life. He had stood before the most powerful throne in the ancient world, with nothing but a wooden staff, and won. By dying alone in the desert, within sight of the land he was never allowed to enter, he proved that no earthly empire is permanent, and no human king is truly a god.